Every single one of Tullio Campagnolo's early derailleurs required 2 hands and a philosophy of patience just to shift under load. And yet somehow, 90 years later, we ended up right back where cycling started. 1 ring, 1 chain, nothing to think about but pedaling. In 2012, SRAM released a mountain bike drivetrain that was missing an entire component and told the industry this was the future. What they didn't advertise quite as loudly is that downhill racers had already been riding almost exactly that setup for years, using homemade chain rings built by small aftermarket shops, not by SRAM's engineering department. The company didn't invent the idea, it packaged it, patented the tooth profile, and sold it back to you as innovation. That's the part of the 1X story most riders never hear, and it matters because the assumption baked into nearly every bike shop conversation today is simple. 1x is modern, 2x is outdated, and anyone still running a front derailleur is either a roadie clinging to tradition or someone who hasn't gotten the memo. Single ring drivetrains are lighter, cleaner, simpler to maintain, and if you're shopping for a new mountain bike in 2026, you'd have to go out of your way to even find a front derailleur on the showroom floor. The story everyone tells themselves is that engineers finally figured out how to do more with less, and the old 2-ring system is a relic waiting to die out entirely. Except that story skips over what a front derailleur was actually solving in the first place. And once you understand why it existed, the 1x conversation stops being about progress and starts being about trade-offs nobody wants to say out loud. Go back far enough and every bike was 1x. Fixed gear, single freewheel, no decisions to make. The derailleur only showed up because riders kept running into mountains, and mountains don't care how strong your legs are. Campagnolo's early gear change systems in the 1930s and the Grand Sport that followed in 1949 existed to solve one specific problem. How do you give a rider enough range to climb a real hill and then spin out a fast ascent without asking them to carry 3 separate bikes for 3 separate gradients? The answer, for most of the 20th century, was 2 rings up front and a small cluster of cogs out back. 2 rings didn't just add gears. They added them efficiently, in tight, evenly spaced steps, so a rider's legs never had to lurch between wildly different cadences. That efficiency is the whole reason 2X survived as long as it did, and it's the part that gets conveniently left out of the modern pitch. So if 2 rings were solving a real problem, something had to change to make riders willing to give that up. And the truth is, nobody sat in a boardroom and decided 1x was the future for performance reasons first. It happened in the mud, years before SRAM ever put a name on it. Go back to the early 2000s and talk to anyone who raced downhill or early enduro. Front derailleurs on that terrain were a liability, not a feature. Rock strikes bent cages. Chain suck destroyed rear triangles. A drop chain on a rock garden at speed could end your race, or worse. So riders and small specialty companies started doing something crude and effective. They pulled the front derailleur off entirely, bolted on a single narrow chain ring with a chain guide bash guard, and accepted a smaller gear range in exchange for a bike that simply would not throw its chain. Companies most casual riders have never heard of, names like Black Spire and E13, were machining alternating tall-short tooth profiles into aftermarket chain rings years before any major manufacturer touched the idea, specifically to grip the chain link by link and stop it from derailing on rough ground. It wasn't marketed as minimalist genius, it was a workaround, built by mechanics who were tired of losing races to a part that kept failing. SRAM watched this happen for the better part of a decade before it acted. When XX1 launched in 2012, the narrow, wide tooth profile at the center of the whole system wasn't a new invention. It was a refinement and a patent filing on an idea the aftermarket had already proven in competition. What SRAM actually contributed was the piece nobody in a garage could build: a wide-range cassette all the way out to a 42-tooth low gear at launch, engineered specifically so that removing the front derailleur didn't mean giving up your climbing gear. It's a genuinely clever piece of systems engineering. It is also, conveniently, the reason you now need SRAM's proprietary XD driver body just to run their biggest cog, which meant that adopting 1X wasn't simply pulling off a derailleur, it was buying into a specific ecosystem, often down to the rear hub. This is where the story most riders get told starts to crack, because 1X wasn't sold to you purely as a solution to drop chains and mud clearance, even though that's genuinely where it came from, and where its advantages are the most real. It was sold to you as universally, objectively better, and the parts of that claim that hold up are different from the parts that get quietly ignored. Start with what's true. On technical terrain, 1X is a real measurable improvement. Fewer failure points. No front shifting to time badly on a rock garden. A narrow, wide ring and a clutch derailleur genuinely do keep the chain on far more reliably than a triple or double ever did off-road. For cross-country racers, enduro riders, and anyone hammering down loose, rutted trails, that reliability is worth more than a slightly wider gear range. And that's why the entire World Cup cross-country field and almost every enduro pro runs a single ring today. This part of the pitch is not marketing spin. It's just physics working in your favor. Now here's the part that gets buried. To replace the range that two chain rings used to provide, 1x cassettes had to grow enormous. Modern SRAM Eagle cassettes stretch across a 10 to 52 tooth range, and Shimano's competing wide-range cassettes go almost as far. That means the jumps between gears are bigger than they ever were on a tightly stepped 2x setup, sometimes over 12% between cogs at the low end, which means your cadence can lurch noticeably every time you shift, especially right when you need smooth, consistent power the most, on a steep, technical climb. Racers who grew up on the fine-grained control of a double chainring will tell you, quietly, that they miss being able to fine-tune their cadence instead of hopping between big steps. There's also the chainline problem nobody puts on a spec sheet. With only one ring, that ring has to serve the entire cassette, from the smallest cog to the largest. That means at both extremes of the range, the chain runs at a much steeper angle than it ever did with a front derailleur to shift the load closer to center. Steeper chainline angles mean more friction, more wear, and chains and cassettes. That, in real-world testing, by multiple independent mechanics and outlets, often need replacing sooner than a comparable, well-maintained 2x setup. So part of the simpler, less maintenance argument is actually offset by a drivetrain that quietly eats through consumables faster at the exact gears riders use most. And that consumable cost is not small change. A high-end 1x cassette machine to survive a 52-tooth low gear routinely costs 2 to 3 times what a comparable 2x cassette costs. Mechanics who service both systems will tell you the same thing. 1x is genuinely simpler to shift, but it is not simpler on your wallet once you account for how often that expensive cassette and chain need replacing. The industry sold you mechanical simplicity while quietly moving part of the real cost to the maintenance bill you see 18 months later. Then there's weight. The number one X built its entire reputation on. Removing a front derailleur, a shifter, and a second chainring saves real grams. No argument there. But building a cassette that spans a 52-tooth range requires far more exotic machining, and often a cassette body built almost entirely from one dense, expensive block of steel and alloy, which is heavier per cog than a simple double-ring 2x cassette with a modest range. Add in a beefier clutch-type rear derailleur built to control chain slap across that huge range, and independent weight comparisons from several bike media outlets have shown the total system weight difference between a well-spec'd 1X and 2X setup is often only a few dozen grams, not the dramatic weight savings the marketing implies. You're not getting a free lunch. You're moving the weight from the front of the bike to the back and hoping nobody checks the total. Before we get into where this goes next, if you're the kind of rider who wants the version of these stories that doesn't stop at the marketing copy, subscribe to All About Cycles. It costs you nothing, and it keeps this channel doing exactly this kind of digging. Now, here's the part that turns this from a gearing debate into something a little more uncomfortable. Because 1X didn't just change your drivetrain. It changed what you're allowed to buy next. When SRAM built its 10 to 42 and later 10 to 52 tooth cassettes, it needed a free hub body strong enough to support a cog that small without the splines shearing off. So it created the XD driver standard and controlled it. If your wheels didn't have an XD driver, you couldn't run SRAM's wide-range cassette at all, full stop, regardless of how much you liked the rest of the group set. Shimano, watching SRAM lock down an entire category of gearing, responded in 2018 with its own answer: microspline, a different, incompatible driver standard for its own 10 to 51 tooth cassettes. So the industry didn't converge on one open, simple standard, the way 1X's marketing suggested it was heading. It splintered into two proprietary hub ecosystems. And if you own a wheel set with the wrong driver body for the group set you want, you're not just buying a cassette anymore. You're potentially rebuilding your wheel around a new hub. That's not a footnote. For a lot of riders, upgrading from an older 2x setup to a modern wide range 1x group set has meant discovering partway through the project that their existing wheels simply cannot accept the cassette they just bought, and the fix is a new free hub body at best, or a full replacement hub at worst. It's an unplanned cost hiding behind a decision pitched to you as simplification, and it exists specifically because two companies wanted their own cassette standard to be the one you were locked into. And this is the layer that rarely gets said out loud in a bike shop. The move to 1x wasn't purely a triumph of engineering minimalism, even though the reliability gains on technical terrain are completely real. It was also simultaneously a race between two companies to own the standard that the next decade of mountain biking would be built around. Whoever controlled the driver body controlled which cassettes you could run, which controlled which derailleurs made sense, which shaped which shifters you'd buy, and round it goes. SRAM got there first with 1x specifically because the aftermarket had already proven riders would tolerate a narrower gear range in exchange for chain retention, and once that appetite existed, locking down the hardware underneath it was the more profitable move than simply selling a slightly better chainring. Road cycling tells the same story from a different angle, and it's worth looking at because it shows the trade-offs haven't actually gone away, they've just been sorted by terrain. SRAM brought 1x to cyclocross and gravel with Force 1 back in 2013, and it made obvious sense there too, since cyclocross racing involves exactly the same mud, chain drop, and technical terrain problems that pushed mountain bikers away from front derailleurs in the first place. Gravel racing has followed the same logic, and today, SRAM's XPLR line and Shimano's GRX both lean heavily on wide-range single-ring setups for exactly that reason. But walk into the World Tour Road Peloton, the actual pinnacle of paved road racing, and 2x still dominates almost entirely because road racing rewards the exact opposite conditions: smooth tarmac, sustained high cadence, and a peloton that lives and dies by tiny, precise gear changes as speeds shift by 2 or 3 kilometers an hour at a time. The wider jumps that are a minor annoyance on a mountain bike climb become a real disadvantage when a rider is trying to hold a razor-thin cadence in a fast-moving group. Road racing didn't reject 1x because of tradition. It rejected it because the terrain doesn't create the same problem 1x was built to solve, so the trade-off stops making sense. And here's where the story loops back to you specifically, not the pros. Most people buying a 1x mountain bike today aren't racing World Cup downhill or hammering enduro stages every weekend. A huge share of 1X buyers are weekend trail riders and gravel commuters who adopted the format because it's what showed up on every showroom bike, not because their local fire road was ever throwing chains in the first place. For that rider, the wider gear jumps and faster wearing chainline are a real cost, paid for a reliability benefit they may rarely need. So, the honest verdict: 1X is not a lie, and it's not simply a triumph either. On rough, technical, unpredictable terrain, where a dropped or jammed chain can end your ride or your race, the reliability of a single ring and a clutch derailleur is a legitimate, provable improvement, and there's a very good reason nearly every mountain bike and cyclocross pro on Earth has adopted it. But the broader claim that 1x is simply the better, lighter, more efficient system in every context doesn't survive contact with the numbers. The gear steps are bigger. The chainline wear at the extremes is real. The weight savings are far smaller than advertised once you account for the cassette and derailleur needed to replace what a second ring used to do for free. And underneath all of it sits a quieter story about two companies using a genuine trail-tested improvement as the wedge to introduce proprietary driver standards that now decide what you're allowed to buy next. Buy 1X if you ride terrain where chain retention actually matters, and be honest about whether that's your local single track or just the version of yourself you see in videos. Buy 2x if you spend real time on sustained climbs or smooth roads where fine, even gear steps keep your legs happier for longer, or if the cost of a wide range cassette and a potential hub swap doesn't make sense for how you actually ride. Neither choice makes you a better cyclist, and neither is the objectively correct answer the marketing wants it to be. What isn't defensible is pretending one of them won a fair fight on pure engineering merit, when a good part of what happened was two component giants racing to own the standard. Your next wheel, cassette, and derailleur would all be built around. Campagnolo solved a mountain problem in the 1930s. Downhill mechanics solved a chain drop problem in the early 2000s with hacksaws and aftermarket rings. SRAM turned that hack into a patent and a driver standard in 2012, and the industry has spent the years since arguing about gear ratios while quietly reorganizing around who controls the hub in the back of your wheel. If this is the kind of story that makes you look at your own drivetrain differently, subscribe to All About Cycles, because next time we're taking apart a rivalry even messier than this one, and it involves a patent fight that's still going on right now. Ride safe.